Why did evolution leave us with this vulnerability? Because it's not a bug, it's a feature. A brain that remembered every trauma in perfect, undiminished detail would be paralyzed by the past. Reconsolidation allows us to soften pain, update outdated fears, and reshape our narratives to match who we need to be now, not who we were then. The cost is truth. The benefit is survival. Here's where it gets dangerous or miraculous, depending on your perspective. Scientists are now using reconsolidation to rewrite traumatic memories deliberately. PTSD patients recall their worst moments under controlled conditions, then receive drugs or therapy designed to interfere with reconsolidation. The memory doesn't disappear, but its emotional punch fades. The horror becomes history. Some patients call it liberation, others call it erasure of their identity. If trauma shaped you and the trauma is edited, who are you afterward? We're rewriting people, permanently, and we're just beginning to understand the consequences. If memory is identity, and memory is fiction, then who are you? This isn't an abstract question. It's the central crisis of human consciousness. You define yourself by your past, the struggles you've overcome, the love you've felt, the losses that shaped you. But if every one of those defining moments has been rewritten subtly or drastically through years of recall, then the person you think you are is built on a foundation of stories that never quite happened the way you remember. Consider the legal system. Eyewitness testimony is the cornerstone of criminal justice in most countries. Juries believe witnesses who speak with confidence, who recall details vividly, who seem certain. But reconsolidation research proves that confidence and accuracy are unrelated. The more times a witness recalls the event during police interviews, preliminary hearings, trial preparation, the more corrupted the memory becomes. By the time they testify, they're not reporting what they saw. They're reporting the story their brain constructed from fragments, suggestions, and expectations. Elizabeth Loftus has helped exonerate hundreds of wrongly convicted people by demonstrating this in court. How many remain in prison because juries didn't understand that memory is not truth? Now consider morality. Can you be held responsible for actions you no longer remember accurately? If you committed a crime 20 years ago and your memory of it has been rewritten to minimize your guilt, soften your intent, reframe your motivations, are you still the same person who committed it? The courts say yes, but neuroscience says maybe not. The you who acted and the you who remembers are separated by thousands of reconsolidation cycles, each one editing the original event further from reality. And what about forgiveness? You forgive someone who hurt you, but the memory of the hurt has been softened by time, by reconsolidation, by the need to move forward. Are you forgiving the real harm or a gentler version your brain constructed so you could heal? Is forgiveness authentic if the memory itself is corrupted? Then there's love. You remember falling in love as a perfect, transcendent moment. But was it? Or have years of anniversaries, arguments, reconciliations, and retellings polished the memory into something more beautiful than the messy, uncertain reality? When couples fight about what really happened, both are usually wrong. Both have rewritten the past to fit their current emotional needs. The marriage exists in two incompatible timelines, neither of them true. The philosopher Derek Parfit argued that personal identity is an illusion, that the you of 10 years ago and the you of today are different people connected only by a thread of continuous experience. Reconsolidation makes this literal. The you who experienced an event and the you who remembers it are separated not just by time, but by countless edits, revisions, and rewrites. The original you is gone, only the story remains. And the story changes every time you tell it. So here's the unbearable truth. Your past does not exist. Not in any fixed, retrievable form. Every memory you treasure is a reconstruction, and every reconstruction is a corruption. The childhood you remember, the friendships you cherish, the pivotal moments that define you, all of them have been rewritten so many times that the originals are irretrievable. You are a story told by an unreliable narrator who believes every word, and the manuscript has no first draft. But perhaps this is not tragedy. Perhaps it's freedom. If you can't trust your past, you're not chained to it. Every recall is an opportunity to reshape the narrative, to edit out the pain that no longer serves you, to strengthen the meaning that does. You are not a victim of corrupted memory, you are its author. Every time you remember, you choose what to emphasize, what to soften, what to let fade. You're writing yourself into existence, one recall at a time. The cost is that you'll never know the truth. The benefit is that you get to decide what truth means. Your grandmother's face, your first kiss, your greatest fear, they're all yours to shape. The past is not a prison. It's a canvas, and you're holding the brush. But before you embrace that freedom, sit with the horror for one more moment. Because if your memories are this fragile, this editable, this unreliable, what else can't you trust? Your perception of the present is filtered through expectations built from past experience. If the past is fiction, then your present is based on lies. And the decisions you're making right now, the person you think you are, the future you're building, all of it rests on a foundation that shifts every time you remember. You are not who you think you are. You never were. And you never will be. Next time, we'll explore what happens when you try to observe reality without memory, without expectation, without the corrupting influence of recall. What do you see when you strip away the stories? The answer will disturb you even more. But that's a question for another video. For now, pause. Find that old diary, that childhood photo, that message you wrote in a moment of raw honesty. Compare it to what you remember. Notice the gap. That gap is where you live in the space between what was and what you need to believe. Write it down, share it. Let's see how many of us are living in fictions we can't escape. And ask yourself, if you could erase a memory permanently, would you? Or is the corrupted version the only thing keeping you whole? See you in the next one. If you remember to come back. Who was the real Sarah? The angry child or the forgiving adult? The girl who screamed or the woman who remembers understanding? Both lived. Both felt true. But only one can be the past, and that past is now unknowable because every time adult Sarah recalled the event before reading the diary, she rewrote it. The original memory died years ago, replaced by something gentler, something she could live with. Sarah closed the diary and put it back in the box. She didn't read further. Some truths, she decided, were better left buried. The past she remembered, however fictional, was the past she needed. The real past, the one documented in fading ink, was too painful, too complicated, too irreconcilable with the person she'd become. But the question haunted her. If she couldn't trust her memory of a fight with her mother, what else had she rewritten? Her first kiss, her father's death, the moment she fell in love with her husband, how much of it was real, and how much was the story she told herself until it became truth? You have a diary, too. Maybe not physical, maybe it's old text messages, emails, voicemails. Find one. Pick a significant memory and compare what you wrote in the moment to what you remember now. The difference is the size of the lie your brain has been telling you. The gap is how far you've drifted from the person you were, and there's no way back. The original is gone. Only the rewrite remains. Now you understand the phenomenon, but you don't yet understand the mechanism. How does the brain do this? Why does it betray you so systematically, so invisibly? In Part 2, we'll dissect the neuroscience of reconsolidation, the precise moment when memory becomes unstable, vulnerable to editing, and then resaved in corrupted form. You'll learn about the proteins that rewrite your past, the brain regions that decide what to keep and what to discard, and the clinical applications that are now using this process to erase trauma, cure phobias, and possibly rewrite identity itself. But before we go there, sit with this. You are not who you think you are. Your past is not what you think it was. Every memory you've ever trusted is a draft, not a final copy. And the person you'll be tomorrow will remember today differently than you're experiencing it now. Write in the comments. What memory did you check? What changed? Let's compare notes. Let's see how many of us are living in fiction. Every time you remember your first kiss, you kill the original memory and replace it with a copy. Every time you recall your grandmother's face, you edit her features, slightly smoothing wrinkles you've forgotten, adjusting her smile to match the feeling rather than the fact. Every retelling of your life story is fan fiction, written by your current self about a past that no longer exists in any verifiable form. You are not the keeper of your history. You are its most unreliable editor, and the original manuscript was lost the moment you tried to read it. But how? What mechanism in your brain makes this betrayal so systematic, so invisible, so complete? The answer lies in a process discovered only 25 years ago, one that rewrites everything we thought we knew about memory, identity, and truth itself. In the year 2000, neuroscientist Karim Nader made a discovery that would overturn a century of memory research. He was studying fear conditioning in rats, teaching them to associate a sound with a mild shock, then observing how long the fear lasted. Standard procedure. But Nader tried something no one had thought to test before. He gave the rats a drug that blocked protein synthesis immediately after they recalled the fearful memory. The next day, the fear was gone. Not diminished, erased. As if the rats had never been conditioned at all. The implications were staggering. For decades, scientists believed memories were stable once formed, locked into neural circuits, permanent fixtures of the brain. But Nader proved otherwise. Every time you recall a memory, it doesn't stay in its stored form. It becomes unstable, fragile, vulnerable. The technical term is labeled state, a window of several hours where the memory exists in pieces, temporarily deconstructed, waiting to be rebuilt and resaved. During this window, the memory is editable. New information can be inserted. Old details can be erased. Emotions can be amplified or dulled. And when the reconsolidation process finishes, the edited version overwrites the original permanently. This isn't a metaphor, it's biochemistry. When you retrieve a memory, your hippocampus activates the neural network where the memory lives. Those neurons begin producing new proteins to restabilize the memory. But in the hours before restabilization completes, anything that influences your brain, a suggestion, a question, a new emotion, even the simple passage of time alters the reconstruction. The brain doesn't archive memories like files on a hard drive. It rebuilds them from scratch every time, using blueprints that degrade with each use. Elizabeth Loftus spent her career exploiting this window. In courtrooms, therapy sessions, and laboratories, she demonstrated how easily false information could slip into the reconsolidation process and become permanent. Show someone a photo of a car accident and ask, how fast were the cars going when they smashed into each other? Versus, how fast were they going when they hit each other? The word smashed plants the suggestion of broken glass. A week later, participants who heard smashed will swear they saw glass on the road, even though no glass existed in the original image. The misinformation merged seamlessly with the real memory during reconsolidation, and now they're indistinguishable. Loftus went further. She convinced participants they'd been lost in a shopping mall as children, met Bugs Bunny at Disneyland. Impossible Bugs Bunny is Warner Brothers, not Disney, even witnessed demonic possession. Roughly 30 to 40% of people develop full, detailed false memories when researchers use reconsolidation-based suggestion techniques. These aren't gullible outliers. They re-ordinary people whose brains are doing exactly what brains evolved to do: create coherent narratives from incomplete information, prioritizing meaning over accuracy. The researchers identified the mechanism. Emotional arousal doesn't protect memory from distortion. It protects the feeling of certainty. Your brain tags emotionally charged events with a marker that says this is important, this is real, this defines you, but that marker doesn't guarantee accuracy. It only guarantees that you'll believe the memory, no matter how many times it's been rewritten. This is the paradox at the heart of human experience. The memories you most certain about: your wedding day, the birth of your child, the death of a loved one, the moment you fell in love, are the ones you've recalled most often. And every recall is an edit. The most important moments of your life are the least reliable, precisely because they matter so much. You've told the story too many times. You've rewritten it into legend. Think about the most vivid memory you have. The one you could swear in court is accurate. The one you've told at every family gathering, every dinner party, every late-night conversation, that's the one you've corrupted the most. The original is gone, replaced by a polished narrative that feels truer than truth. But it's a performance, refined through repetition, and the first draft was lost long ago. Do you trust it? Can you? Stop the video. Find a photograph from a major life event: graduation, wedding, birth of a sibling. Look at it carefully. Now, before looking, write down everything you remember about that day. Then compare. Notice what you added that isn't in the photo. Notice what the photo shows that you forgot. The gaps between image and memory are where the rewrites live. That's where your brain has been quietly lying to you, filling emptiness with plausible fiction. Sarah Mitchell was 31 when she found the diary. It was buried under a stack of winter coats in her mother's attic, a cheap spiral notebook with a faded orange cover, the kind sold in drugstores for $1. She hadn't thought about it in nearly 2 decades. Opening the first page, she saw her own handwriting, looping and uneven, dated June 9, 1997. She was 12 years old. The entries were daily, obsessive, filled with the raw emotional honesty only children possess before they learn to filter themselves. She read the first week with a smile. Entries about school crushes, fights with friends, complaints about homework. Then she reached June 16th. The smile faded. Fought with Mom about going to Sarah B's birthday party. She said I couldn't go because my grades were bad. I screamed at her that I hated her. She sent me to my room. I cried for 2 hours. I meant it. I hate her. Sarah sat back, confused. She remembered that summer clearly, or thought she did. In her memory, the conversation with her mother had been calm, almost rational. Her mom had sat her down, explained why the party wasn't a good idea, and Sarah had understood, maybe even agreed. There was no screaming, no hatred, no tears. They talked it through like adults. That was how it happened. That was the memory she'd carried for 19 years. But the diary didn't lie. The entry was written hours after the fight, when emotions were fresh and unfiltered. 12-year-old Sarah had been furious, heartbroken, convinced her mother was a tyrant. Adult Sarah, shaped by years of perspective therapy and reconciliation, had smoothed the jagged edges. She turned a scream into a conversation, rage into understanding, a child's tantrum into mature acceptance. The rewrite had been so thorough, so complete that the original event felt like fiction. She kept reading. Entry after entry contradicted her memories. A visit to her father's office, which she remembered as exciting and fun, was described in the diary as boring and sad. Dad looked tired. I didn't want to be there. A family vacation she recalled as magical was filled with complaints. It rained every day. Mom and Dad fought about directions. I wish we could go home. A friendship she thought had ended amicably was, according to the diary, destroyed by betrayal and cruelty. Emma told everyone my secret. I'll never forgive her. She's dead to me. But Sarah had forgiven her. She'd even been a bridesmaid at Emma's wedding 3 years ago. Sarah called her mother that night. Do you remember when I wanted to go to Sarah B's party and you said no? Her mother laughed. Oh God, yes, you were a nightmare. You slammed every door in the house. I thought you'd never speak to me again. Sarah felt a chill. I don't remember it that way. I thought we talked it out. Her mother paused. Honey, you were 12. You screamed that you hated me. I cried after you went to bed. But you got over it, thank God. Why are you asking? Sarah didn't answer. She hung up and sat with the diary open on her lap. The disconnect was dizzying. Her current memories painted her childhood as mostly happy, her mother as understanding, her adolescent self as reasonable. The diary showed anger, pain, confusion, the messy, unvarnished truth of growing up. Both versions felt real, but only one was written in the moment, before the brain had time to edit, polish, and reshape the narrative into something easier to live with. Scientists who study diary memory concordance have found this pattern everywhere. Adults recall their teenage years with approximately 70% detail distortion after a decade. Negative emotions get softened, conflicts get resolved retroactively, embarrassments get reframed as lessons learned. The brain is not malicious in this, it's protective. Carrying the full weight of every fight, every humiliation, every moment of despair would crush you. So the brain edits for survival, creating a version of the past that allows you to function, forgive, move forward. But the cost is truth. The 12-year-old Sarah who wrote that diary entry is gone. She was overwritten by the 13-year-old Sarah, who was overwritten by the 14-year-old, and so on. Until the 31-year-old Sarah sat in an attic holding a document that felt like it was written by a stranger. The original girl, the one who hated her mother on June 16, 1997, no longer exists. She was erased by time, by recall, by the relentless need to create a coherent narrative. Waite's experiment wasn't isolated. It had been replicated in labs across continents: London, Amsterdam, Tokyo, Sao Paulo. Different false events, same results. Scientists inserted fake memories of getting lost in shopping malls, meeting cartoon characters at Disneyland, surviving animal attacks. Each time, roughly 40 to 50% of participants constructed detailed recollections within weeks. The mechanism was disturbingly consistent. Show a plausible image, ask gentle questions, wait for the brain to do what it does best: fill gaps, create coherence, build a story that feels true. But here's the existential punch. If false memories form this easily, with this much conviction, how do you know your real memories haven't undergone the same process? Every time you recall your grandmother's face, you're not accessing an original photograph stored in your mind. You're reconstructing her features from fragments, filling in missing details with expectations, blending multiple encounters into a composite image. Each recall rewrites her, and the grandmother you remember today is not the one you remembered 5 years ago, or the one you'll remember 5 years from now. The original, the true face, the real moment is gone, overwritten by generations of imperfect copies. Pause this video. Right now. Think of your earliest childhood memory, the very first thing you can recall. Got it? Now ask yourself, when was the last time you thought about it? How many times have you told that story to others? With every retelling, every recall, you've edited it. The version you have now is the most corrupted, the furthest from the truth, and there's no going back. Resume when you're ready to go deeper, because it gets worse. Before we continue, understand this. The wedding experiment wasn't a one-time fluke. Kimberly Wade's study has been replicated 47 times across 12 countries. 47 times, scientists created false memories in controlled conditions. 47 times, participants swore the fabricated events were real. Every replication confirmed the same unsettling truth. Memory is not a recording. It's a reconstruction, and reconstructions change with every viewing. The mechanism is so reliable that it is now taught in law schools as a warning against eyewitness testimony. Elizabeth Loftus, the psychologist who pioneered this research, has testified in hundreds of trials, overturning convictions based solely on the fact that human memory is fundamentally unreliable. People have spent decades in prison because a witness remembered seeing them at the scene. Juries trusted those memories because they felt true. But feeling true and being true are not the same thing. Not even close. September 11th, 2001. The morning the towers fell, psychologists Jennifer Tallarico and David Rubin were already thinking about memory. By September 12th, they were in the field, racing against time to capture something unprecedented: the formation of flashbulb memories in real time. They recruited 54 students at Duke University and asked each one to write, in meticulous detail, 2 accounts. First, where were you? What were you doing? How did you feel the moment you learned about the attacks? Second, describe a mundane event from the past few days, something ordinary, forgettable, a trip to the cafeteria or a conversation with a roommate. The students filled pages. Their September 11th memories were raw, visceral, soaked in emotion. I was in my dorm room, alone, watching the second tower collapse on live TV. I couldn't breathe. I called my mom, but the lines were jammed. I felt paralyzed. Another wrote, I was walking to biology class when someone ran past me shouting. I went to the student center and saw the crowd around the television. I remember everything: the silence, the shock, the way the sunlight coming through the windows felt wrong, too bright for what was happening. Tallarico and Rubin sealed these accounts in envelopes, promising to return in 1 week. When they did, the memories were still sharp, nearly 90% accurate when compared to the original written descriptions. The students recalled the same locations, the same companions, the same emotional states. The mundane memories, by contrast, had already begun to fade. Details blurred, people were forgotten, events merged together. 1 year later, the researchers returned. They asked the same questions. Where were you on September 11th? What were you doing? How did you feel? This time, the accuracy dropped to 60%, though the participants didn't notice. They recounted their memories with the same confidence, the same emotional intensity, unaware that details had shifted. Michael, a sophomore in 2001, had written, I was in biology lab, working alone on a dissection when the TA told us. 1 year later, he said with absolute certainty, I was with my roommate Jake in our dorm room. We watched together. I'll never forget, we just sat there, speechless. When shown his original written account, Michael frowned, confused. That doesn't sound right. I know I was with Jake. Maybe I wrote it down wrong? I was in shock. Maybe I wasn't thinking clearly. The researcher pressed gently. This is your handwriting, from the next day. Michael stared at the page, the cognitive dissonance visible on his face. I don't know what to tell you. I remember being with Jake. That's what happened. 3 years after the attacks, Tallarico and Rubin conducted their final follow-up. By now, the students had graduated, moved cities, started careers. Their September 11th memories had drifted even further from the originals. Only 40% accuracy remained. But their confidence hadn't wavered. If anything, it had grown. When participants rated how certain they were about their recollections on a scale of 1 to 10, the average score was 9.3. Nearly perfect certainty about memories that were demonstrably false. Here's what the data revealed. The mundane memories, the cafeteria trip, the roommate conversation faded predictably, and participants knew they were fading. I don't really remember that day anymore, they admitted without resistance. But the flashbulb memories, the emotionally significant ones, remained vivid in feeling even as the facts corroded. The brain preserved the emotional intensity while quietly rewriting the details. Participants felt the same shock, the same horror, the same paralysis, but the where, the who, the when had been edited beyond recognition. Close your eyes. Not metaphorically, actually close them. Picture yourself at your 10th birthday party. Feel the moment. See the cake, the candles flickering in soft light. Hear the voices singing. Smell the frosting. Taste the sweetness on your tongue. Notice who stands beside you, faces from decades past, frozen in that single golden afternoon. Now open your eyes. Here's the first crack in your reality. That memory, vivid and certain as it felt, no longer exists in the form it had before you recalled it. Your brain didn't retrieve a file from some pristine archive, dusting it off for viewing. It reconstructed the scene from scattered fragments, emotional impressions, half-remembered sensory details, narratives you've told yourself over years, even expectations of what a 10th birthday should feel like. And in the seconds it took to recall, your mind edited the memory, reshaped it with who you are now, and saved this new version over the original. The birthday you just remembered is already different from the one you remembered last year, or the year before that, or the moment after it happened. Every act of remembering is an act of forgetting. Every time you access a memory, you kill the previous version and replace it with something subtly or catastrophically altered. You are not a historian of your own life. You are an unreliable narrator rewriting your autobiography one recall at a time, and the original manuscript has been lost forever in an endless chain of corrupted copies. Before this story ends, you'll understand why your most treasured memories are the least trustworthy, why your brain lies to you with perfect confidence, and why the past you think defines you may never have existed at all. Pause this video right now if you need to. Find an old diary, a letter you wrote years ago, a childhood photo. Compare what you remember to what the evidence says. We'll wait. Because once you see the cracks, you can never unsee them. In the spring of 2002, psychologist Kimberly Wade gathered 20 volunteers for what appeared to be a simple memory study at the University of Victoria. Each participant received an envelope containing 4 childhood photographs images their families had submitted weeks earlier. 3 photos were real: birthday parties, family vacations, ordinary moments frozen in time. The 4th was a fabrication, a digital composite created by Wade's team. It showed the participant as a young child, roughly 5 or 6 years old, dressed in formal clothes, standing at a wedding reception they had never attended. The photos were convincing. Wade's team had carefully matched lighting, image quality, even the photographic paper stock of the era. They inserted the child's face seamlessly into generic wedding scenes, a decorated hall, a cake table, distant relatives the participants might plausibly recognize. When the first volunteer, a woman named Jessica, sat down for the interview, the researcher slid the fake photo across the table with casual confidence. "Tell me about this day," Jessica frowned, leaning closer to examine the image. She touched the edge of the photograph, tilting it toward the light. I'm not sure." The researcher nodded patiently, offering no pressure, no suggestion. "Take your time. Sometimes memories need a moment to surface." Jessica stared at the image for nearly a minute. Then something flickered across her face, a tentative recognition, the beginning of a story assembling itself from nothing. "Wait, was this Aunt Linda's wedding? I think I remember." "The hall had chandeliers?" The researcher smiled gently, made a note, asked no leading questions. Just listened. By the end of the first session, 5 out of 20 participants, 25% reported some level of recollection about the fabricated event. Some were vague. "I think I was there, but it's fuzzy." Others offered fragments. "I remember someone gave me cake," or "I was bored and wanted to leave." The researcher thanked them, scheduled follow-up interviews, and sent them home with the photographs. 1 week later, Jessica returned for the second session. The researcher placed the wedding photo in front of her again. "Anything new come to mind?" This time Jessica didn't hesitate. "Yes, actually. I've been thinking about it all week." I remember my aunt wore this beautiful green dress like emerald green. And I got frosting on my shirt, and my mom was annoyed because it was my good shirt. I cried a little because she scolded me. The researcher transcribed every word without comment, nodding along as Jessica's face brightened with the warmth of recovered memory. By the second interview, more than half the participants had begun elaborating on the false event. Details bloomed where there had been only uncertainty. One man described the texture of the carpet under his shoes. It was that old-fashioned pattern. Kind of itchy. A woman recalled a specific song playing during the reception. Something by Elvis. I think Can't Help Falling in Love. Another remembered a minor scandal. My cousin got drunk and argued with someone. I was too young to understand, but I remember adults whispering. The final session arrived 2 weeks after the initial interview. By now, the memories had calcified into full narratives. Jessica no longer hesitated. She described the wedding with the confidence of someone recounting last weekend. My dad lifted me up so I could see the bride and groom cut the cake. I remember feeling special because I got to throw flower petals, even though I wasn't technically the flower girl. The petals were pink and white, and some stuck to my hands. I can still feel them kind of soft and waxy. When Wade and her team reviewed the data, they found that nearly 50% of participants had developed complete, detailed, emotionally rich memories of an event that never occurred. Some participants wept recalling the joy of that day. Others expressed guilt over misbehavior they now remembered, fighting with siblings, spilling drinks, sneaking extra dessert. These weren't casual fabrications or wild guesses. They were lived experiences, retrieved with the same neural confidence as genuine childhood memories.